last week in preparation for my monthly office hours, I ask for questions from both my inner circle, my gold inner circle members, as well as outside members. And I received a question from a client, a corporate client, who wanted to know. Well, actually, I'll tell you the question here in just a second. But the bottom line is that when I was doing my office hours and I was answering questions, I completely forgot to answer Costigan's question. So apologize for that, Costigan, but it was a great question. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to just do it for my weekly video this week, my weekly uncopyable business episode. So welcome to that. And so the question, because I thought, this is a question that a lot of companies, a lot of people have issues with. In fact, back when I had my last real job, which was a long time ago, when I was vice president of international sales and marketing for a Japanese toy company, I had the exact same kind of questions and concerns and things like that. So anyway, so the question that I got was, how do I feel about outside salespeople, who they're not employees of the company, like distributors, manufacturers, reps, people like that, who, it just seems like all they're doing is just they don't really go out and make sales calls for my company. Was the question, and isn't there a way for me to communicate with my customers in another way, so that I can still get the sales, right? So I think that's kind of the gist of the question, and really what it boils down to is, how do you want to go to market? And maybe even a more important question is, how do your customers want to hear from you? Okay, so I got my little drawing pad here out, and let's kind of look. Let's do it this way. I'm going to draw. All right. So now let's imagine that is me. All right. I'm the guy that wants to make the sale, right? So, and then over here, that's my customer. All right. So somewhere in between here, I need to make a connection with that customer, and there are multiple ways. We'll boil it down to about five ways that you can do this. One way is to, let me just change these colors here. I'm going to go to, I guess I'll just go to this one here. So one way is that, and we'll say this is number one. One way is that you can have inside sales reps. All right. Now, inside sales reps being people who are employees of your company, and but they only communicate with people virtually. They talk to them on the telephone. They communicate with them, through email, the internet, things like that. They might even Skype with them or something like that. But their connection is through through virtual. All right. The second one being that we have inside salespeople who are salespeople who are outside salespeople. So, but they are employees of the company, and they are out there knocking on doors on our behalf, right? We are the only company that they represent. All right. We got the third one, which is, we'll say, independent manufacturers representatives, manufacturers reps, and that is typically a company who takes on a company of salespeople, and they take on a handful, not a lot. They take on a handful of companies. And they act as their outside salespeople, but they are still an independent rep, and they typically are paid commission on their sales. Okay. The fourth one being something like distributors, wholesalers, that they purchase the products from you or from me. They purchase the products from me. They warehouse those products, and then they have salespeople who are going out and selling. Now, what do we got here? All right, what are the pluses and minuses of these? And why? How do we pick? How do we pick which one is absolutely the best one for us? Well, obviously, number one and number two, when we're talking about our own salespeople, then we are talking about, we have control. We have 100% control over what they are doing. I mean, we can set quotas for them. We can train them. They learn about our products, and they represent us 100% of the time. That's what they do. They represent us. So the connection, between us and them is a very, very direct, connection. Now, when you get into outside, people like outside reps and outside distributors, our connection is not really that solid because they don't represent us 100%. Now, in my case, when I was, when I had people, I had both inside sales, and I also had I had inside sales, and I also had some independent reps. But they would typically only carry about maybe 10 to 20 different lines, and they would really work those lines, and if they were good, then they would make sales for you, right? The question of using distributors, on the other hand, is that the distributors typically carry they have a lot of lines, a lot of products, a lot of companies that they represent. Now, what have we got going on here? So when we are looking at these guys here, our connection is all, like I say, it's 100%, right? When we're looking here and here, our connection is not 100%. We might be lucky if it was 5% of them. Now, here's the thing. Salespeople sell what sells. That's what they do. And when they are independent, when they are outside of your purview, then they are now, manufacturers reps will do a better will typically, or I should say, they're supposed to do a better job because they don't carry as many lines. All right, so they are actually out there to represent you to sell. To be perfectly 100% honest, and this is not a knock on distributors at all. It's a different way of getting to the customer. Distributors sales reps are representing a lot. It's not unusual for them to represent over 100 different products and 100 different companies even, and they are only going to sell what sells on its own. It's going to be they sell what sells. They sell what they get spiffs on and incentives on. They go out and they are order takers. That's what they are. So the question, that I got was regarding, this group right here, and that there's a frustration, and I understand the frustration. There's a frustration that Costigan feels that he is paying these people to just be order takers, and the answer is yes. That is exactly what you're doing. But the question is how do you get to this person over here? How do you get to that customer, and how does that customer want to be communicated with? Now, in perfect world, face to face is the best form of selling, right? But you could say that really the sales are here and sort of here, all right? But they are not with the number 4 group. The best thing of all would be if is to just go from here to here, from us, for me to be making all the sales calls. That would be the most ideal situation, right? But if I have to have somebody in between, then I have to ask myself, okay, how much am I willing to pay? How much am I willing to manage to be able to connect with the customer that makes the customer satisfied, makes the customer happy? Now, the question that was brought to me was, well, is there a way for me to create, a different type of communication system? Now, is it newsletters? Is it sending out email blasts, communicating with people 100% virtually or through the mail or something like that, but without a person in between? And quite frankly, I think that's a difficult proposition. It works well with consumer companies. You notice that, once you buy a product from a consumer company, you are slammed by that consumer company. They are constantly, all the time, emailing. I've got Tommy Bahama. I've got, companies like that. I buy clothes from Tommy Bahama. I buy them online. Every day I get at least one email from Tommy Bahama. Oftentimes I get more than one email from them. But that's their way of staying on top of of our connection together, because we don't have that face-to-face, human-to-human contact. So, so the bottom line is what is going, what is going to get the job done? Recognizing that if you cannot do face-to-face, if I can't do face-to-face with my customer, if it's prohibitive for me to do, number one, with the sort of virtual in-house, if it's prohibitive, both maybe in cost as well as my time and managing. Number two, well, then I have to pick something, and there's a cost of doing business to connect with the marketplace. So, and I would ask myself the question: Am I willing to take the chance by disconnecting that human-to-human contact? Am I willing to take the chance that that my orders are gonna go down because I don't have any human-to-human connection in there? There is no perfect answer. For some companies, number one. Some companies, number two. Some companies, a combination of number one and number two. My daughter works for Callaway Golf, as most of you know, and right now she is full-time inside sales, but they also have full-time outside salespeople that are employees of the company. For some people, manufacturers reps are the best. That worked out really, really well for me back at my last real job. And for some companies, distributors are the way to go. I would say that obviously distributors, unless you've got a really hot product, distributors are difficult to go through, because the moment yours is not an easy sell, it drops off the radar for those salespeople. And then the fifth option of actually just communicating with people on a regular basis without salespeople, I think that's a big risk. Quite frankly, I think that's a big risk, especially in the B2B world. Maybe not so much in the B2C world, but in the B2B world. So anyway, any comments from you about this would be great. Would love to hear what your experience has been, what's worked for you, what hasn't worked for you. Feel free to jump in, because there are many roads to the top of the mountain. Remember that. It's not my way or the highway. There are many roads to the top of the mountain. All of these work for somebody. So, stick in your 2 cents worth, and we can have a conversation about it here online. So this is Steve Miller, better known as Kelly's dad, a marketing gunslinger. Thanks again for joining me this week for another Uncopyable Business episode. Be back again next week. And in the meantime, always remember, be uncopyable. See ya.